Jive with Manjula, a show about giving, featuring non-profit organizations, social activists, social entrepreneurs, and philanthropists who are giving back and making a difference.
Jive with Manjula is a show that is a must-see.
Today, a remarkable immigrant story of a woman's struggle, strength, and commitment to service. Our guest today is a leading voice for solutions to homelessness and poverty. For over 30 years now, she has been the executive director of an award-winning Eastway nonprofit that helps homeless, poor, and disabled people build new lives. An organization that she joined as a client 40 years ago and moved on to lead its growth from a small street outreach project to a nationally known organization. The guest is Boona Cheema, and the organization is BOSS, which stands for Building Opportunities for Self-Sufficiency. Boona has combined her work at the helm of BOSS with broader efforts to create systemic change for social and economic equity. She serves many local, national, and international nonprofits as an advisory board member or a volunteer. And she also happens to be a trained Unitarian Universalist minister. For her work, leadership, and commitment, Boona has received numerous awards, including President Bush's Points of Light Award, the San Francisco Foundation Community Leadership Award, Berkeley Living Legend, and many others. In 2010, Boona was inducted into the Alameda County Women's Hall of Fame, and the county also declared a Boona Cheema Week in her honor. Boona, it's great to have you here today.
Well, thank you so much.
Well, you have led an extraordinary life, and you were always ahead of your time, and many times you have chosen some very unconventional paths to pursue your work. For example, during the war in Vietnam, you were helping the wounded children there. How did you end up in Vietnam from India? Give us a little bit of your background.
Yeah, I had just finished my master's in journalism from Punjab University and was working at Times of India and getting a little tired of being sent to cover flower shows and ladies, fashion shows and stuff. And my thesis had been on war reporting. And I thought, well, you know what better opportunity than to try to get into Vietnam and see if I could do journalism there. But, as fate would have it, I ended up with an organization that worked with napalm burned children.
I see.
And ran a house with kids in it. And nurses brought them to San Francisco General, and then the kids were returned to us, and we took them back into their hamlets and families. Many times, of course, the families had been, annihilated. It was hard to find kids the homes that they needed, that they had left.
I see. Very interesting. So this is how you found your connection to San Francisco?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then again, you came to the U.S., maybe San Francisco first, in 1971. And very unusual that you joined a homeless organization as a client. Tell us, what were your circumstances at the time?
When we worked in Vietnam, we were working practically as volunteers. None of us were really getting paid that much. And I'd gone to India, gotten married, and we came here and had absolutely no resources. That was like 1971 wasn't a time where you could easily just move money around from one place to another.
Right. Yeah, you couldn't even get money from India.
I know.
Hard
it was very, very difficult. And I was pregnant and had this notion that I would, walk into a hospital and have a baby. But it wasn't like that, and it's not like that in the United States. So I saw a sign that said, if you need help, we can do that today. If you need a miracle, it takes us a week. And I was like, I have to find out what this place does. And they helped me, maneuver my way through welfare and raising my kid. And my husband was trying to go into med school, so he went to UC Berkeley in pre-med. So we struggled for about 3 or 4 years.
I see.
And saw what it feels like to, have to put things together. But we'd had that experience after partition in India, so it wasn't new to me.
Tell me about the partition. experience. How old were you at the time, and do you have any memories of that? Any experiences?
I have a few what feels like vivid memories, but it also could be repeated stories that have been told in the family.
Okay.
And you think you dreamed this dream, but there are some very vivid memories.
Yeah.
When the border was drawn, luckily my father ended up on the India side, but the rest of us were on the Pakistan side. So we actually had to cross over and come into the India side.
So were you united with him soon after, or did it take some time?
No, we knew exactly where he was, and that's where we went.
Okay, great.
That's where the whole extended family went. So my
I
family
see.
was very involved in settling folks that came across the border, and being part of that and feeling that sense of, people need to settle so they can grow their lives.
Right.
And when you're moving as a refugee, and homeless people in this country are our urban refugees, the objective is to, get people to have some place where they can start rebuilding their lives.
So that kind of laid a seed.
It definitely did.
Okay. And then again, very unconventional thing for you to become a Unitarian Universalist minister. I believe you come from a Sikh family.
Yes, I do.
So how did that happen?
I gave it quite a bit of deep thought. It was between, go to school of social welfare, because I knew what I wanted to do was work with people. Work with people who had challenges that seemed unsurmountable. So it was social welfare, versus psychology or something else. And then I'm like, what I really do best is communicate with people and make them feel, loved and feel some trust between us.
Okay.
And why not get the professional training that would allow you to do that?
What is Universal Unitarian?
Unitarian Universalists are folks, I would say, that attract people who believe in God, but not particularly in any particular religion.
Okay,
so it's sort
includes many of us.
Yeah,
out there. Okay,
and it's a wonderful community. It's a wonderful church. I owe them a lot of what I've learned, but I had trouble getting them to ordain me as an urban minister. So
for
I
a
said,
woman,
okay, I'll go do my own thing. I'll create my own ministry.
Oh, that's what you did.
Well, that's what I feel boss is sometimes.
Right.
Some of the time that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
that
very
the organization
hard.
has that core of spirituality that I think is very important in the lives of people.
Yeah, it must have been so hard in those days. A woman, and that to an Indian woman, coming to become a minister.
It was. I was the first.
Okay, so you've been in Berkeley all along, all this time?
I spent some time in Cleveland, Ohio, and did an internship in Akron, but Berkeley and Chandigarh are my two homes.
Okay, yeah, you've definitely.
And I go back and forth.
When I read about you, you belong in Berkeley, and the question was whether Berkeley found you or you found Berkeley.
I found Berkeley.
Okay.
When I got to Berkeley, I was like, yes, here I can make my dreams come true.
Now, you have dedicated your entire life to helping poor and homeless. And it's very hard for people outside of America and within the countries, many within this country also, to believe that there is poverty, that kind of poverty in America and homelessness. So define poverty for us, describe the homelessness in this country.
It depends on where you go to look. Mostly, we just want TV and radio and newsprint to inform us about what's going on in the world. In India, poverty is, of course, much more visual.
Right.
It's right there.
Yeah, all
It's
along.
all along,
Two Indias run parallel.
Parallel.
Right.
And here, in some cities, it's hidden, and in some cities, it's not. San Francisco, for example, you walk around the Tenderloin or other areas, and folks are sleeping in the streets, and San Francisco has a sense of the numbers and what the conditions are.
Right.
But then you go to a place like, say, New York now, compared to many years ago,
Right.
and you wonder what happened to all those people. It's almost like, where did they go? What happened?
They went to other cities, probably.
They also went, into housing. New York did make a major effort to develop housing that had been, left, people weren't living in it, had been abandoned, and did create housing options for people.
Okay.
But they also pushed a lot of them underground. There are people in New York living in the tunnels under the entire
in the tunnels.
The metro system. So and we don't want to believe that. We don't want to see that. We don't want to believe that, you can walk into a single mother's house and she opens the refrigerator and there's nothing but peanut butter and jelly and maybe some bread and a little milk. We can't believe that because people say, well, what did she do with her food stamps? Money isn't going very far anymore.
Right.
So to think that a family of 4 can live on $500 to $700 a month is, it's because we don't have to do it. We can't even picture how difficult it is for people to make ends meet. Of course, poverty looks different in the United States.
Okay.
You don't see that level of, starvation.
Right.
But what we are missing is that the children who are living in poverty, and especially children who experience homelessness, have the same rate of having post-traumatic stress disorder as do veterans that are coming back from a war. And so that's where we have to stop, and start is, let's start with the kids. Let's make sure that they have safety and they have good schools and they're going to get an education. There is no even playing field in this country. So
education is critical.
Education is absolutely critical, and all of the kids in our programs have to go to school, and we have after school program for the kids, and education being, absolutely at the top of my agenda.
Okay. So now you have been the executive director of BOSS for over 30 years.
For a long time.
And you have done a great job. The organization has grown to be recognized nationally. So tell us about BOSS. What makes it so special? What are some of the programs that you offer?
At the core of the organization is to help people understand how they got into the situations that they got into. Okay. And because people have this feeling of, shame, and it was my fault, and because that's what they've been told.
Right.
And to sort of restore their dignity, a core piece, bring them back to a level of wellness where they can really start to even think about a future that will be different and might be similar to a past that they have lived as younger kids or as college students.
Right.
Not everybody that's homeless is someone who has always been poor and always been homeless. People have had lives.
People lose jobs.
That's right. And so to restore that confidence, but on the more concrete side, this is the more subtle piece, even though it's, to me, probably the most important piece, is that if people know that you appreciate them and love them and you treat them equally, then, they will make the effort.
Build their self-esteem.
Absolutely.
I see.
And the more concrete programs are health. We do health, including mental health, substance abuse, and then job training, finding people work, education, case management, working one-on-one with folks.
I see.
And we have 16 facilities in Alameda County.
I see.
The majority of them are housing, shelters as well as transitional housing. We have gardens that are attached to our buildings that people who live there take care of the food, eat from the gardens. So, we're sort of creating a different way for even poor people to sort of think about you're not always having to go to the local store, where you're going to get gouged.
Self-sufficiency all the way.
All the way. If it's in a poor neighborhood, you're going to pay higher prices than other places.
Okay.
So it's sort of a holistic wellness approach.
Okay.
And then the empowerment piece is about social policy and organizing and making sure that people's rights are being honored. So it's got that human rights lens to it.
Very holistic approach.
Yes.
So now again, as I said, this is America, land of opportunities, a very rich, prosperous country. What are the causes of poverty here, how to best address it, and moreover, prevent it. What are your thoughts on that? Give us your insight. I know we don't have much time, but
no, I think I can do this. It's probably this country's biggest challenge because the way the economic system is set up, it's not set up for everybody to be able to participate.
True.
So as long as that is true, and education, whether it's education or whether it's the conditions you live in, your nutritional value of the food that you eat, your access to transportation, your access to jobs, what kinds of jobs, what have you been trained for? Until we start doing that equally for everybody in this country, we're going to have poverty. So if, somebody shows up on this show and says, oh, we can end poverty in this country, right, I would love to have that dialogue with them. We don't have the resources. The resources that we have are being prioritized in a very wrong direction. We have no business being in multiple wars right now when that money needed to be spent here.
That drains our country.
The resources of this country are very drained, and the public policy in this country needs a complete overhaul.
I see. Because
the policies that have been created are archaic. We need a new beginning. We really need to and everyone needs to participate. We can't have two societies or three or four societies.
Yeah, so society has a responsibility.
Absolutely. Not just to give, but to actually participate.
Get involved.
Get the teachers to come out and teach when they're not teaching in school.
Yeah, tell us some of the things
doctors,
people can do.
Everyone can help because we all have at least one special skill.
Sure.
Whether you're an artist or a writer or a photographer or a doctor, or you can come into our programs and tell us what it is you have to offer, and we make it possible for that to happen.
Okay.
And that, if we don't have community and the continuing creation of community all the time, then we do live in different worlds.
Okay, so all they have to do is look up their local homeless organizations. Each city has these organizations.
And then slowly keep working at the problem and, build the housing, instead of building jails, let's put our money where people really will be helped.
Okay. Besides BOSS also, you pursue your work, as a passionate advocate for social justice and peace. You are an educator, a mentor, a speaker, an activist. So tell us about some of these other activities and other organizations that you are actively involved with.
I was more actively involved with other organizations when my work was a little smaller. It's become daunting as the economy is, crashing, and we're seeing more and more people all the time. It's taking up more of my attention and time. But I've served on the board of directors of Oxfam America, which many, many, many folks love for the international work that they do. I was with Food First, Seva Foundation, that does that incredible work on eye restoration. I did some work in Mexico during the time that the Zapatista movement, the revolutionary movement, was going on. I'm very interested in people being able to see their future and work on it and actually realize it. So everything that's going on now in the Middle East is absolutely exciting and fascinating, and I hope that at some time I'll be able to go and actually, be a witness to this tremendous, tremendous change that I think is going to affect all of us, irregardless of where. I have probably the deepest love for children.
Okay.
That is where I know I will always be, especially kids that have been traumatized or kids that are living with challenges.
So you've worked with some of the projects for children?
All of our projects in some way or another have had children, and I've worked with an organization called the Encampment for Citizenship, which was started by Eleanor Roosevelt, that created these camps every summer where kids came from all over the world and learned how to create their own government and run their own country.
Oh, how interesting.
So I've had a blessed life. It hasn't been easy,
Okay.
but it's definitely been one that has given me a sense of sensitivity to issues that I also like to share with people and teach young people that yes, your intellect is brilliant, but we also have to. Your fullness will come from when your heart and your intellect, become one.
Like you said, it's not been easy. I know this kind of work is very hard, and it takes a special person to do it, to be working with the poor, homeless, and disabled all your life. And you have
To be inspired.
Yeah, right.
Without inspiration, it's not a road that I would lead a second time around.
Yeah, and you have had to raise a mentally ill child also, as you were talking earlier. You mentioned that. So tell me, what is the source of your inspiration, your strength?
I would say that faith, spirituality. I consider myself a spiritual person. I'm doing work now on how spirituality and mental health sort of belong together. That wellness comes from having a deep sense of something that's bigger than us, whatever we might want to call it or however we want to express that. But at our core, there really is, energies working that we're not aware of, that have been deadened by the experiences that we've had to live. And so to just, remind young children, impressionable young children, that they're more than just going to school. They're more than just the books that they read. They're more than just the toys that they play with. That they're full human beings, and their potential is greater than anybody can imagine.
Right.
And you see kids blossom under an environment like that. So
That's true.
I would say my inspiration comes from children.
Oh, how sweet. And of course, you have won numerous prestigious awards, starting with, presidential awards to local level awards, and a week declared in your name, and Berkeley Woman of the Year, Living Legend.
The one I love is the Berkeley Living Legend. And I'm like,
Legend.
so what are they going to name me after I'm not there?
Yeah, so which is all well deserved. But tell me, what has been the proudest moment for you in all this, and what has this work done for your soul?
The proudest moment for me was getting an award from a San Francisco organization called Poor Magazine. And it's a magazine written by and produced and distributed by people who are writers, artists, poets, and they all live in poverty. And when I was recognized by them, that meant more to me than getting the President's Point of Light, which was, of course, who doesn't want to get that?
Sure.
But I would have to say the Poor Magazine award is my favorite. Because it had an R on it, and I'm a bit of a revolutionary, so it all sort of fit in together. What was the other question you asked?
What has it done for your soul? What have been the rewards other than these awards that you got?
It's given me the ability to, the challenges that I've had in my life, has given me the ability to be able to engage with people and an honest, deeply thought through way of being with human beings. To me, we're more the same than we are different. And recognizing that has really supported my core. Always going back to, okay, what you're going to do today, you're going to do with people who are equal to you. What you're going to present to someone, whether it's, a foundation head or the governor or whoever, is just as human as you. And so to be able to see humanity at its best and not so best sometimes.
That has helped you at
It's
a
helped
personal
me,
level also
absolutely.
to deal with your personal challenges.
Absolutely.
I see. Now, as I'm talking to you, a question comes to my mind, going back to the homeless organizations and all. How are the South Asians affected by it, especially the women?
I was hoping you would ask me that question.
Okay.
I get a lot of calls around the issues of domestic violence. And that is growing in our communities, in the South Asian community. It's almost always related to alcoholism. And then the younger people in our community really need help because, mental illness has never been recognized well in the South Asian community. Yeah. It's like, she'll get over it. She didn't get good grades, so she's sad.
Yeah, there's a stigma attached to it.
There's a huge stigma attached to it. And I'm wearing a bracelet that says, stop stigma. Stigma stops with me.
Okay.
So that, it's very important that we dig our heels in our community and talk with our young people because I'm so close to UC Berkeley. And the kids there, know of me and will call and say, what do I do? I just, they're stuck between, two worlds. And, and they know that they have options, that they can actually get help.
I know, it can be very
but it's
confusing
the
at
parents
times.
that are in the way.
Right.
So
I can understand that.
And we are beginning to see more, especially South Asian women in domestic violence shelters than we ever have. We're beginning to see women in prison, which is also new in the South Asian community.
Right.
And we're beginning to see more in our mental health institutions.
Okay. And real quick before we go, what is your message for our viewers?
My message to you would be never walk by a homeless person without talking to them.
Beautiful. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you, Boona, and it's really inspiring, the way you have led your life. You are a true hero, a role model out there, and it's people like you, who make this world so beautiful and who restore our faith in goodness, kindness, and humanity.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's all we have for you today. Our guest was Boona Cheema, the Executive Director of BOSS, an award-winning grassroots organization in Alameda, California, that helps homeless, poor, and disabled people achieve self-sufficiency and works on finding effective solutions. As a social activist, Boona has devoted her entire life to the issues related to poverty, civil rights, community development, and youth at the local and international levels, winning numerous prestigious awards and, moreover, people's hearts. To learn more about Boona and her work with BOSS, go to self-sufficiency.org. And to watch this show again, go to chaivithmanjula.org or YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll be back with another inspiring story about people making a difference. For Chai with Manjula, I'm Manjula Gupta. See you next time.